Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Thursday, December 21st, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 Bank Shop best bet, there's also my all-access season pass in college hoops. You can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Thursday in college hoops. First up, we see a rivalry game between Kentucky and Louisville. This one's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Now, this is a true home game for Louisville, which is notable because this is the first true road game of the season for Kentucky. And it's going to be in a tough building. You know, big rival in Louisville. These teams do not like each other. And last year, Louisville lost to Kentucky by 20-plus points on the road in Rupp Arena. So Louisville is playing with revenge. You know, last year, obviously, only 4 wins for Louisville, so they already got 5 this season. They're making improvements, albeit not too many improvements. They're still quite a few years away, I think, in terms of being a real contender in the ACC again. But I still think this team is improving. I think this is way too many points to be laying in a rivalry game, in your first true road game as a pretty young team. You know, Kentucky always does a great job. John Calipari does a great job at recruiting, brings in, top 10 recruiting classes, seems like every year. But this is still a young team with a lot of freshmen playing in their first true road games in their collegiate career. And Louisville, while, like I said, not improving by much, they still are a strong rebounding team that gets to the free throw line, makes their free throws. They're not a great shooting team from the field, but I think that they're good enough to compete in this ball game. Especially defensively. This is a top 200 defense, which is improvement from last year. And at home here, I just think there's way too many points. We've seen Louisville step it up. They played Indiana pretty tight, and we also saw them only lose by 1 point to Texas at a neutral site, 81-80. So they've been able to play with the bigger teams this season. Give me the points here with Louisville. I still think Kentucky wins, but Louisville makes it interesting. Next up, we see Jacksonville and Purdue. This one's 6:30 Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Now, I'm not always actively looking to lay, large spreads in college basketball. It seems like we've had a few more of those recently than, at the beginning of the season. But this is just one of those games where I think it's one of the more lopsided matchups on paper that we've seen in non-conference play this year, as I think Jacksonville is still overrated. You see that 8-4 record looks pretty good on paper. They're 273rd in KenPom, which is not too shabby for an ASUN team. But when you look at the shot quality, when you look at the fundamentals, this team does just not compete against the top teams that they played. Xavier lost by 23 points. They lost 107-56 against Pittsburgh, lost 94-52 against UCF. We took UCF in that ball game. I don't think that Jacksonville is going to be able to compete in this game against the toughest team they played by far this season in Purdue on the road. Purdue is not always looking to absolutely demolish their opponents, but this is, I would say, you could make the argument, the weakest team that they played this year. We saw them play a similar ranked team in Texas Southern, 270th in KenPom. They won that game 99-67. I think Purdue gets in the hundreds in this ball game. Their offense should be able to score at will. Even though it's more of a slow-paced offense, it's still number 2 in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency. I don't trust this Jacksonville defense, and also they're a really bad defensive rebounding team. Purdue with Zach Edey should be able, if they're missing shots, should be able to get those second chance looks and easy putbacks or and-one opportunities with Edey and the front court. On the defensive end, Purdue doesn't really force a lot of turnovers or more of a conservative defense, but they force a lot of tough shots, and I don't think Jacksonville's going to get a lot of good looks in this ball game. Their shot quality offensively is not good this season. They turn the ball over. They get to the free throw line, but I don't think it's going to matter here against Purdue. To me, Purdue wins this game by 40+. I like Purdue in this one. I'll lay the points. Next up, we see Lamar and LSU. This one, 9 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. We've talked a lot about Lamar college basketball last couple of games. We've taken them last 2 games. They won in a blowout fashion for us against ULM, and then they lost to Southern Miss by 3 points. Now, the closing number was right around 4.5, 5 points. Most of you guys probably cashed with Lamar plus the points in that one. The opening number was 2.5, so a few losers there. But, in this spot, I think we're getting way too many points with Lamar again against LSU, a team I don't trust on either side of the ball this season, a program I think is in the midst of a rebuilding year. And when you look at LSU, the big worry I have for LSU is the three-point defense. This team, not only, percentage-wise, is giving up a 36.4% three-point shooting percentage to opposing teams, which is ranked 312th in the country, but just in general, they're giving up a lot of volume from the three-point line. The teams are scoring 41% of their points against LSU from the perimeter. That's the third most in the country. Teams are scoring more points from the three-point arc than they are from two-point range, which is crazy to think. And Lamar, that fits right in what they look to do. We know Lamar takes a ton of three-point jumpers. They make them at a good rate. They're 14th in the country in three-point shooting, just under 40% as a team this season. Now, in that game against Southern Miss, Lamar still, they only lost that game by 3 points, and they had a bad night from three in that game. There was 6 of 22, 27%, which is actually kind of a promising sign to see Lamar still be able to compete against a solid program like Southern Miss without the three-point shot working for him. Now, if it works in a game like this, we could see a potential upset win. I mean, Lamar is not a great team fundamentally. The defense, is worrisome, but LSU's offense has not been great this season. They turn the ball over a ton. They're 302 in turnover percentage offensively. Lamar is still, a good offensive rebounding team. What's the best shot you can take other than a putback layup on an offensive rebound? Kick it out to the corner in a wide open three. We could see Lamar make some noise in this game. To me, it's going to go one of two ways. I think Lamar really makes it interesting, has a chance to win it outright late, or it could be an absolute blowout win for LSU if that Lamar defense does not hold up. You could take the over in this one if you want to, play it safe. I do think LSU's offense, has a solid day against that Lamar defense, but to me, personally, I think this is way too many points to be given the Cardinals, so give me Lamar plus the points. Next up, we see Kent State and Oregon. This one's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern on the Pac-12 Network. Now, Oregon, we faded them in their last game against Syracuse, and that was a 20-point win for Syracuse at the neutral site. And while Oregon returns home here where they play their best basketball, of course, I still think they're laying too many points in this game. And I think Kent State, really solid mid-major program. We saw them in the NCAA tournament last year. They were 28-7 record-wise. And while they lost a good amount of production from last year's team, this is still a pretty experienced team with mostly upperclassmen in the starting lineup and a top 100 adjusted offensive efficiency team that is a great offensive rebounding team, gets to the free throw line. They're a pretty good balanced shooting team, solid free throw shooting team. They can make some shots from the perimeter. Defensively, teams are shooting pretty well against Kent State, but I think they're forcing some pretty tough shots and also forcing turnovers, which could be an issue for Oregon in this ballgame. Kent State's on a 3-game win streak. They scored 80-plus points the last 2 games, and that includes their first true road game of the season against South Dakota State. Solid program there in the Jackrabbits, and Kent State won that game by 9 points on the road. Pretty impressive victory. Kent State hasn't played the toughest of schedules. This is probably one of the tougher games they played this year, but I think they compete in this one. This is a strong program, great head coach, and I think Kent State's getting way too many points here. So give me the points here with Kent State. Wouldn't be surprised to see the outright upset, but I'll take the points just in case. Next up, we see Eastern Washington and Washington, the final game we're going to talk about for the Thursday card in college basketball. This one's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern. I think Eastern Washington is catching Washington at the wrong time. I think Washington, when you look at their last game against Seattle, we took Seattle plus the points in that one. It was a 100-99 final score in favor of the Huskies. They were down big at halftime. They were able to come back, force overtime, force double overtime, and get the outright W. Seattle covered for us in the end, but Washington, I don't think they're going to be looking to play down to their opponent in their next game. It was a pretty lousy spot for Washington in that game against Seattle because they were off the win against Gonzaga, a big upset win. It was a classic letdown spot for Washington, and we saw that in a true road game in a tough environment. It was certainly looked like a letdown spot, but now the Huskies, I think we're going to have a much better performance here against a weak Eastern Washington team that lost a lot of production from last year's team. Eastern Washington nowhere near as good a shooting team as they were last year. I mean, last year, this team was ranked 6th in the country in effective field goal percentage, second best in two-point field goal percentage. But this year, 118th, which is not terrible, but they're turning the ball over way too much. They're not a good offensive rebounding team, and their defense has just not been able to hold up. And they've played a very tough non-conference schedule, and that includes a game like this. They're going to be fine, I think, in conference play in the Big Sky. Not a team I'm giving up on in terms of what they can do in the conference, but they played at Utah, at Ole Miss, Cincinnati, Stanford, Washington State, USC. A majority of those games were double-digit losses, and I see another double-digit loss here and potentially a 20-plus point loss in this game. I don't think Washington takes its foot off the pedal. I don't think that they take their opponent lightly. I think this is a spot where we see Mike Hopkins, probably wasn't the happiest after that win against Seattle. They had, many chances to lose that game outright after beating Gonzaga. I think Washington back at home here puts together a strong 40-minute performance, wins this game and covers the number. Give me Washington. I'll lay the points to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Thursday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.